Charlie, welcome back everyone. It's Charlie and I have just stepped out of a time machine, or at least it feels that way. After what has felt like an eternity since we last left the scheming halls of King's Landing and the dragon-filled skies over House of the Dragon, we are finally, officially back in Westeros. And not just for one helping this year, but for two. Spring is coming, post all those winter is coming memes in a big way. Today, I'm bringing you my absolutely no-spoiler first impressions of the premiere episode of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. This is the calm before the analytical storm, the vibe check before the deep dive. My full, detailed breakdown, crammed with every Easter egg, lore connection, and frame-by-frame analysis, will be live tomorrow night for you all to dissect. So consider this your spoiler-free safe zone. If you've seen it early, please be a knight of good faith and keep those secrets close to your chest in the comments until the world has had its chance to watch. Now, if you've seen the trailers, you already have a hint of what I'm about to say. This show feels different. HBO's marketing, much like they did with House of the Dragon's premiere, has done a brilliant job of telegraphing the unique tone of this series. But seeing a full episode cements it. House of the Dragon, for all its new characters and earlier timeline, still vibrates on a very similar frequency to the original Game of Thrones. It's a saga of dynastic ambition, brutal political machinations, and epic, dragon-fueled warfare. It's grand, it's dark, it's operatic. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is playing a completely different instrument in the same orchestra, and the most immediate, delightful difference, it's funny. It has a warmth and a levity that the other shows use only as fleeting respite. One of the fair criticisms of House of the Dragon's first season was that it struggled to replicate the original series' rich vein of character-driven humor, the Tyrion wit, the Bronn sarcasm, the Hound's grumpy nihilism. That's not a problem here. The humor is baked into the DNA of this story, and it comes largely from the brilliant, grounding perspective of our new point-of-view character. This shift in tone is evident in everything, from the dialogue and the character interactions right down to the music. While House of the Dragon wisely and effectively leverages Ramin Djawadi's iconic, established musical themes to connect us to the familiar world, the score here feels new. It's lighter on its feet, more character-centric, evoking a sense of journey and personal aspiration rather than impending doom or imperial gravitas. Yet crucially, it still feels like Westeros. You look at the muddy roads, the thatched roof inns, the armor, the heraldry. It's unmistakably the same continent where, in about 80 years, a guy named Ned Stark will lose his head and a girl named Daenerys will hatch some dragons. The timeline is vital here, so let's just place our pin on the map. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is set roughly 89 years before the events of Game of Thrones Episode 1. It begins about 78 years after the conclusion of the Dance of the Dragons we're currently watching in Hot D, so the realm is still catching its breath from the horrific civil war we're seeing play out now, and is about a century away from the War of the Five Kings. Think about that. This is a Westeros weary of Targaryen family squabbles, a kingdom where the last dragon has long since died. The magic has faded from the world, leaving behind stories, symbols, and a power structure that must now be maintained by tradition, law, and human force of will alone. And who is our guide through this post-magical, post-dragon era? Not a king, not a lord, not a scheming spymaster. Our eyes and ears are those of a commoner, Sir Duncan the Tall, or as he's less formally known, Dunk. Dunk the Lunk, thick as a castle wall. And that's not an insult from me, it's a core part of the character's charm and the show's comedy. A lot of the humor is derived from Dunk's sheer, delightful obliviousness to the larger games being played around him. He's a man of simple, profound focus. He wants to be a true knight. He wants to embody the vows, the honor, the chivalric code in a world that often treats those ideals as a naive joke. This is where the show makes one of its most fascinating tonal breaks from its predecessors. In the original Game of Thrones, honor was practically a death sentence. Ned Stark's honor got him killed. Robb Stark's honor got him killed. It was a show that argued, often convincingly, that survival and success in this world required moral flexibility, ruthlessness, and a willingness to get your hands dirty. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms doesn't refute that darker reality. It still exists in the background, but it asks a different question. What if goodness itself is a form of strength, What if, in a cynical world, unwavering integrity is its own kind of revolutionary power? Dunk isn't clever like Tyrion or politically savvy like Varys. His superpower is his decency. And the story is about how that decency impacts the people around him, starting with his traveling companion. Ah yes, the other half of this legendary duo, Egg. I can't say much about Egg without veering into spoiler territory, but I can say this. The dynamic between Dunk and Egg is the absolute bedrock of this entire series. If this chemistry didn't work, the show would collapse. Thankfully, HBO's legendary casting department has knocked it out of the park yet again. Peter Claffey as Dunk brings this beautiful, hulking physicality paired with a wonderfully open and earnest heart. And Dexter Saul Ansell as Egg is a revelation, precocious, sharp, and hiding layers beneath a clever exterior. Their relationship, the weary, honorable knight and the clever, mysterious boy, is an instant classic. It's the core around which every event, every conflict, and every moment of growth revolves. This is an adaptation of George R.R. Martin's beloved series of novellas, collectively titled The Tales of Dunk and Egg. The first season adapts the first story, The Hedge Knight. And when George says this is the most faithful adaptation of his work HBO has ever done, he is not exaggerating. Having read the novella, I can tell you the dialogue is often lifted directly from the page. The plot beats are meticulously followed. It's a breezy read, you can finish it in an afternoon, which explains the show's unique structure. We're not getting 10-episode, 60-minute sagas here. Season 1 is 6 episodes, each running between a tight 30 to 45 minutes. It's a focused, novelistic approach, one novella, one season, and because of that focus, they've made a bold production choice. There is no traditional animated opening title sequence. I know, it feels blasphemous. The goatee theme is iconic. House of the Dragon's blood tapestry sequence is a masterpiece of storytelling in itself, but here, with such precious runtime, they've opted to jump straight into the story. And you know what? It works. It immediately establishes this as a more intimate, ground-level tale. We're not looking at a sweeping, magical map of the realm, we're trudging through its mud with Dunk. It's a deliberate choice that reinforces the show's identity. And what of that identity? You'll see people online immediately comparing it to the 2001 film A Knight's Tale, and the vibe is certainly there. The tournament setting, the underdog story, the anachronistic but fun energy. But let's be clear. George R.R. Martin published The Hedge Knight in 1998. If anything, the cinematic spirit of that film shares DNA with this story, not the other way around. This is pure, classic Martin world-building, just viewed from the bottom looking up, rather than from the Iron Throne looking down. The entire first season is set around a single, wonderfully classic fantasy trope, the tournament arc. We're at the tourney at Ashford, in a part of the Reach near the Dornish Marches. It's not King's Landing, it's a provincial backwater where local lords gather to show off, make alliances, and joust for glory. This limited scope is the show's greatest strength. It allows for deep character development, nuanced interactions, and a sense of place that's sometimes lost in the continent hopping of the other series. We get to know the smells, the sounds, the social hierarchies of this specific corner of Westeros. And yes, while this is a standalone story, it is deeply woven into the tapestry of the world we know. The title itself, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, is a direct callback to one of the few universally praised moments from Game of Thrones' final seasons, the episode where Sir Brienne of Tarth is knighted by Jaime Lannister. As book fans know, Sir Duncan the Tall is the legendary ancestor Brienne is descended from. The ideals he strives for are the ones she eventually embodies. Furthermore, the young boy Egg, well, let's just say his journey is perhaps the most important origin story for the Iron Throne that hasn't been told on screen yet. The ripple effects of this simple hedge knight and his squire will shape the next century of Westerosi history in profoundly positive ways. That's another key difference. While House of the Dragon is showing us the Targaryens at their most destructive and self-immolating, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms will ultimately show us a path toward their redemption and one of their most beloved reigns. It's a story about healing a broken realm, not tearing it apart. So why is HBO doing this now? Why not the fabled Aegon's Conquest with its hundreds of dragons, or the Blackfyre Rebellions a civil war fans have begged for? The answer is smart programming. First, scale. Aegon's conquest would make House of the Dragon look like a budget drama. It's the most VFX-heavy story imaginable. Second, repetition. The Blackfyre rebellions are tonally very similar to the Dance of the Dragons, another Targaryen civil war. After Hot D, audiences might crave a different flavor, and that's exactly what this is. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is the perfect counter-programming. It's the charming, character-driven, hopeful yin to House of the Dragon's epic, tragic yang. It proves that the world of Westeros is big enough to contain multitudes of genres. It can be a Shakespearean tragedy, a political thriller, and a heartfelt buddy adventure story about honor and friendship. My final, spoiler-free take: I am utterly charmed. The first episode is a confident, warm, and beautifully executed introduction to a side of Westeros we've heard about in songs and stories but have never truly lived in. It's a world where the biggest threat isn't a White Walker or a rival claimant, but the temptation to compromise your principles. It's carried by two phenomenal lead performances, a fantastic supporting cast. Keep an eye out for a wonderful, grizzled cameo from a goatee alum, and a clear, loving reverence for the source material. It doesn't seek to replace the epic scale of its siblings. Instead, it complements them, adding depth, heart, and context to the legend. It asks us to remember that history isn't just made by kings and dragons, but by the simple, good choices of everyday people, even if those people are 7-foot-tall lunks and their annoyingly clever squires. The premiere of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a welcome return to a world we love, seen through a new, refreshing, and wonderfully optimistic lens. I cannot wait to take this journey with Dunk and Egg, and I absolutely cannot wait to break down every single detail with you all. Don't forget to enable those notifications. My full episode 1 breakdown with all the Easter eggs, prophecies, book comparisons, and lore deep dives drops tomorrow night. Until then, keep your shields high, your lances ready, and please, no spoilers in the comments.